Happy Sunday. I've recently become familiar with this term, the Sunday scaries, that people get as they dread going to work on Monday. And I'm like, that is so apt. Oh my gosh, especially now with it being Halloween. Hopefully you have managed to keep your kids out of the candy. Hopefully you've been more successful than we have, is really what I'm trying to say. I'm sure some of you might be out trick-or-treating right now. I didn't realize that was the thing. I think it's lovely. There are so many more options than there were when I was a kid in rural Tennessee, like driving really far to go. There was no neighborhood to walk or house to house to go. It was a very different experience for me than what people get to do now, and I love it. I wish they'd had something in the center of town that everybody could have just gone to, or like in one of the church or bank parking lots. There weren't that many parking lots. The skating rink would have sufficed. But anyway, I love all the options now for trick-or-treating, and I think it's super cool. And if you're out enjoying those right now, good on you. If you're not, thank you for being here. Really appreciate it. We've got a ton of questions this week. It's the first really live week we've had in a while, and I'm super excited about it. I'm going to dig through all of this. But first, I'm going to start with shutting down my text, which I've been blowing up all day for no good reason. And getting to the questions. First, we have the weekly wins. Korean Terry finally got back to running after taking a break due to illness. If you guys remember, a couple weeks ago, she did an amazing thing and a half. So it's no wonder her immune system was like, after kicking all that booty, I need a break. Good for you. Karen Sutton ran 6.7 miles. It's longer than I've run in a couple years. Karen, you're beating me. Congratulations. Karen ran 6.7 miles, which she said was her longest run since summiting Kilimanjaro. Kili, if you've been there, if you know, you know. And catching COVID. Ugh, she said she definitely felt like she was winning at life. And you are, Karen. I promise, and I love you. Okay, I'm going to dive right into the discussion. Now, I'll get to the marathon questions in a minute. But first, I'm going to share my screen with you. The thing, so this piece, the numbers piece that I'm about to do, a lot of you use Training Peaks for obvious reasons. I ask you to. It's just the easiest way for me to deliver a training plan to you. But some of you have started paying for premium version, or you have Strava, and Strava's premium version offers some analytics. It's a fancy word for numbers. Honestly, it is. I kind of chafe when people are like, oh, I did analytics. I'm like, I went to Word, and what you trying to sell me? Like, I know people are trying to do an upsell when instead of just saying like numbers or data, it's like analytics. Anyway, and this is why it bothers me, right? That it's hard to know in the presence of a lot of numbers, even if especially the smarter you are, the more overwhelming it can be, which ones are the ones I need to focus on, which ones matter the most. How do I look at this? So the things happening in Strava look a whole lot like Training Peaks, like they basically created a system to mimic it. And it's not hard. It's a rolling average and a moving average. The two are very different. Don't worry about it. What I'm going to show you is Karen Schluter's Training Peaks. I was going to show you mine, but I can't get it to come up on my computer. And don't get me started. We're having tech fails today. But what I'm going to show you is what I look at when I'm looking at your fitness and what I look at when I'm looking at my fitness. Okay? Because it's a lot. It is a lot. It's a lot to process. Give me 1 second here. And I'll pull up the screen. That is not what I want. Here it is. That was freaky. Oh, look, yay. I do have that open. Okay. Here we go. I'm going to try to do this on a desktop. And then if it doesn't work, I will post a little screen grab video that I did through the app. Because usually when I'm looking at my own Training Peaks, I'm doing it in the app on my phone. So here we go to share the screen. here it is. This is me. This is my training peaks. As you see, not quite as robust as it might have been once upon a time, which is why we try not to compare it. I'm doing what I can, getting excited about what I can do, trying not to worry too much about having to take this entire week off. But before I took this entire week off, this is where people come. So I wanted to show you this. This is my training peaks. That's me, Coach MK. So here's the thing that I look at. Typically, people come in and they see this number fitness. And the question is this number good or bad? Here's my number. Is it good or bad? And I say, that's kind of the wrong way to look at it, or that's the wrong question. So what fitness is actually telling you, it's a measure, it's fatigue plus form. So form kind of gives you an idea of how much you're building, right? And fatigue is an idea of how tired you are. So the way that I look at it, it's not like, yes, it is very validating. And I've said in the past, if you want to just look at the blue area underneath and be like, oh my gosh, maybe not this one specifically, but last 90 days, look at all that. I'm building this gigantic badass. Look at that mountain of badassery. I climbed it. And that's cool. That's the way I want you to look at it. Past 7 days, I've been sick. I've been in bed. This is my first day sitting up since coming back from the mountains last week. It was awful. Oh my God. But if you get wrapped around this number doesn't mean anything. It represents how much stress your body is carrying, cumulative stress, which is what exercise is, right? You work out one day and that's hard, and you work out and then you need to recover. But maybe you don't work out so hard that you can't work out the next day too, right? So it's that little by little adding up pennies in the bank over time. And that is what this build looks like, day after day after day after day, that increase followed by time off that you need. So, because you can't go all the time. We know that resting is part of training. Your body literally needs to recover. Where rather than kind of looking at this number, which doesn't say anything about me, if I were to look at this, like, what was my fitness number when I ran the Philadelphia Marathon in 2017? I have no idea. What was this fitness number when I ran the New York Marathon in 2019? I have no idea. I really wouldn't look at it that way. It's not like there's a goal here. Like, we're looking for 70 over 6 months. That number doesn't work that way. It doesn't represent anything. What I look at when I look at this number is just trying to see if I'm overtrained or not. And I get that from looking at these two numbers. Broadly and generally speaking, if you haven't had a week off for illness like I have, it's looking at the ratio of these numbers, right? So is form smaller than my fatigue number? If so, is it much smaller, right? Again, there's not an ideal ratio. What we're looking for is, am I overtraining, right? This is the first place I like to go. It's called the ramp rate. Ramp rate, again, looking for overtraining. So the last 7 days, you can see my ramp rate's been -7 because I haven't done anything. I have not been able to get out of bed. Last 28 days, I've had a ramp rate of 3. And that's appropriate. If you've ever heard of the 10% rule, right? We don't want to increase any workout, either the intensity or the duration, by 10% week on week, because more than that might be too much. This goes hand in hand with that. Only instead of a straight percentage, we're looking at a ramp rate. 2 to 3 is a good ramp rate. That is a healthy ramp rate. And if this number for 28 days is too much higher than the number 3, then either you are in that final stage right before Hell Week in your marathon training, or you are probably overdoing it. Why are you working out that hard? Why is your ramp rate that high? Right? You're just increasing with no end in sight, no finesse to it. And you might be hurting your body. You might not be doing, good things to your body. Okay. So ramp rate of over 28 days, really want it to be around 3. For the last 90 days, for me, that's pretty drastic because we had vacation. I was really sick. And then I've been slowly building my fitness back. So over 90 days, that number it depends on the person, right? If you're going like couch to marathon, I can't talk specifically about that. But if you are rebuilding, then really the only number I want you to care about is last 7 days. That number should not be larger than 4. And last 28 days, we really don't want that number to be larger than 5. Anything larger than that, and you might be doing too much too soon to come back. When we look at the last 90 days, this number, unless you've been really consistent with working out and have been incredibly lucky and not had any setbacks, then again, we wouldn't want that number to be much higher than 14. And 365 days doesn't really matter at all. This just shows you what my fitness looked like this year. Started off great with that Zwift challenge, and then boo! Oh my gosh, everything with my stomach and CSID and type 2 diabetes and what? How do I have that? I don't know. Not because I did it to myself, but there you go. And then kind of falling off a cliff, and here we are. So again, I'm not looking at the raw number. I'm not like, well, my fitness back then was 30 in the middle of the summer, or even looking at the beginning of the year where my fitness was 77. I will tell you now, I feel better now than I did when I hit that 77, right? That was not measuring my fitness. That is measuring how much stress my body was carrying. And it was really stressed out. I had kind of given up on feeling better. It was like, I'm just going to do what I want. And I did that. And that Zwift challenge was really, really hard. So it's something like 200 miles in 5 days or something really stupid. It was stupid, but I did it. Anyway, so that's what that number represents, that I was doing a lot, that my body was stressed out. It does not tell you anything about my fitness. They just happen to give it a name. They happen to name this figure something: form, fatigue, fitness. It's not saying that I'm like 21% fatigued. That's not how you read this number. So that's kind of a starting point. If you're going to set up your charts, the very first one I would like you to kind of look at would be your fitness ramp rates. Notice that's about the only one I have set up in here. And I spend a lot of time in Training Peaks. But that's when I'm looking at myself. That's what I'm looking at. This is automatically here and I didn't feel the need to move it. If it makes you feel good, keep it there. If it makes you feel bad, don't worry about it. But that is where I start when I'm looking at me. I look at the ramp rates and I don't really look at anything else. To go back into that again, bring that back up. Again, that blue area underneath, that is the accumulation of all your workouts up to this point. So just get excited about Workout Mountain. Like, yay, I climbed Workout Mountain. I've built all this badassery over the last 90 days. Look at that mountain of fitness I built. Yay, me. We're not going to look over the last 365 days. We're just going to see that I'm coming back. I'm building back, and that feels really good. And we're not going to think about how far we fell because that's not going to do us any good. But when you're looking at that fitness number, it's a representation, a calculus, if you will, of that area underneath the blue line. And that it is not like a pure representation of who you are at any given point in time. Now, I'm going to stop sharing that, show you something different. Present. There it is. Okay. What you're looking at here, this is for Karen Schluter. I'm Karen. This is, see, I have her permission to share this. By the way, take a look. Who do you think's, if again, to drive home this point of what numbers you want to look at, who do you think's fitter, me or Karen? It's Karen. No questions asked. It is Karen. Have you seen the videos that she puts on Instagram? Oh my God. She also just placed in her age group. I think she might have actually totally won it in a recent half marathon. So tell you that to tell you this. Driving home how meaningless this number is. You just saw mine. It's 47. Before last week when I got sick, it was 45. Karen's is 47. So this number, Karen's only slightly fitter than me, which is how you know that number is meaningless. She's been doing a lot more work. She's been doing a lot harder work. She's in a place where her body can do that. So that fitness number only represents like how hard specifically we're pushing her right now, how much stress her body is carrying. And that number, that right there, is how much she was carrying on the day of the race. The fatigue was really high because this was a hard workout. Okay, so when I go into a workout, I know everyone's like looking at the number, like what was your pace? I'm not even there yet. First thing I do when I open it up, I look at two numbers. So I look at this power to heart rate. And I'm like, this is a measure of how efficiently your muscles are working. And broadly speaking, we want that number to be less than 5%. Okay. And that's Karen's is right there. So then I go over here to efficiency factor. Now, in Karen, her efficiency factor she's a super efficient runner, really strong. So her muscles are working well, but this number is usually around a 1.2 or a 1.3 for her. This efficiency factor is a measure of cardiovascular efficiency. So if we can separate whether or not you're just powering through a workout versus whether or not you've actually kind of building that cardiovascular base, this number is a measure of that cardiovascular base. Hers is a lot better than this. So what this tells me, that her muscles were working just fine, but something was off cardiovascularly. And honestly, Karen, I know that you're a little disappointed with your finish time, but you were sick the week before, right? And that's what I see in this number right here, is that you were sick the week before. That's all. And that's so that your body's oxygen conversion mechanism was slightly hampered. It was not a disaster. It's still above 1. Anything below 1. So if you were to go out and start the run and you're like, I'm a mile in, this feels awful, it's not getting any better. You go a second mile and you're like, forget it, it's not happening today. Pretty much guaranteed, if you come back and look at your efficiency factor, it'll be below a 1, right? Those are the days things just don't come together. So it's not that it was a bad day. It just wasn't an ideal day. And you did a great day with it because you're strong as heck. So, but looking at this number, it's not like this is bad, but rather something got in the way of where you usually are. And we know that that was the illness. Okay, the next thing that I want to look at is I want to come down here and I want to take off everything except the cadence line. So I'm looking at the cadence line. It looks pretty nice. So it looks, I don't think you stopped to tie your shoes that many times. That was probably hitting a water station, I'm guessing. Or taking off a jacket or something. But on the whole, look at that, 93, 94, 93, 94. That steady as the clock. It declines a little bit down to 91, 92, 93. But that is a beautiful, beautiful chart. So again, it's not the raw number, like 93 versus 95. I don't care what your cadence is. What I care about is how steady your cadence is. And hers was really steady. Again, a sign that she's super strong and working efficiently, and that she's pacing herself really well. But more than anything, on a day when you're struggling, there's going to be a huge deviation in your cadence, because maybe you start your run and you try to speed up a little bit and you do it by turning your feet over more quickly than you normally would. That is not always the most efficient thing. I'm not saying it's the wrong thing or you can do anything about it. These are things that your body does without being told to do. These are instincts, right? So I look at which instincts are kind of kicking in, and you had and Karen's number was really solid. I don't see a lot of sways. I see, like, honestly, those look like water stops. But for someone who is having a really bad day or is not there yet, we need to have a more nuanced conversation about pacing if they were a one-on-one client, or we need to do different workouts that kind of teach them how to feel the pace a little bit better at any given point in time. That conversation would come out of this line right here that I'm looking at. The next thing I want to look at is elevation, because I want to see. So her cadence was super steady, meaning so that tells me that her pace was not, it couldn't be with all of these, all these little hills and all these elevation changes. Granted, here we go. It's not like these are drastic, but these would have felt like some rollers here, especially later in the race as she's starting to get a little tired, especially if it's windy, which I'm guessing wind started to kick in somewhere around in here. Because that would have been a double whammy here at around mile 10. The wind is now coming in your face as you're going up a hill. You're a little bit tired. You're not quite done yet. Another 20 to 30 minutes of running left. That's just kind of a slap in the face, and who needs it? But again, so despite all this change, you're not speeding up and slowing down. Any changes in your pace is coming from, effectively, from control, not from feeling like you're out of control, right? So this gives me a sense of how you felt during the race. And that looks like, again, she might not be thrilled with the finish time, but she can't be sad at how she executed, because there are really no mistakes here. Then we throw in heart rate. And we see, so this is not going to be, again, the heart rate is always going to be a lot bumpier and a lot messier than pretty much any other metric, because, we're not machines. But again, good control here. Even going up the hill, she's not losing control too much. Her heart rate, I mean, it's high. Don't get me wrong. 182 is really high, but it's not like she's having to overcorrect by slowing down to walk to get her heart rate back under control. She's using the hills efficiently to recover. Again, no mistakes that are here to be seen. And then finally, I throw pacing in. It's the very last thing. And that's where I'm like, okay, I still stand by what I said. It looks like the wind really started. Either the wind started, or there was a turn in the course where it would have been pushing you in the face and you're having to work a little bit harder to maintain that pace. And I see frustration there. So again, it's not like an exact science. This is my gut read of what I'm looking at and how when I'm in Training Peaks. You could get spun out with all of these numbers if you wanted to. I don't think that's helpful. I also wouldn't recommend doing this on every workout. For Karen, who asked me to, what do you look at when you look at me? This is what I look at, and this is how I look at it. I don't even go in here unless I think that, like, let's talk about that looks like you had some difficulty in this mile, or if you would say, I really struggled in mile 10, then we can pull up the information about mile 10, zoom in and really take a look at it. But, I don't think there was. I just said, Por ejemplo, for example, because then it changes all the data over here. And that is what I do, how I do, and what I look at when I'm looking at someone's Training Peaks, someone else's other than mine. I don't do this for my own runs, not at the moment. I might again at some point when I'm in a marathon training cycle, I will. But I only do it again in a way that gives me confidence, and I'm not in a marathon training cycle right now. I don't want to know what my efficiency factor is, because it's not good. I'm having trouble breathing. If I'm sitting around looking like, this is what I look like half the day, y'all. I've been sick all week. This sinus virus. I'm sitting at home, like, tried so hard to breathe with like these in my nose most of the day. If this has been in my nose all week long, I don't need to be looking at numbers. They're not going to be pretty. And if they're not pretty, they're not going to make me feel good. So why would I do that to myself? Life is hard. I'm not going to make it harder. So that is that. I hope, Karen, that answers your question. Amy Wilson as well. I know that we spoke this week about the raw fitness number, and a couple of others have sent in similar questions. But when I'm looking at, that's what I look at when I look at me versus what I look at when I look at you. I make sure, I just want to see the size of that mountain, like that workout mountain. I'm climbing it. It's bigger. It is increasing, and that is good. Then I look at the ramp rate. Is it increasing too much too quickly? No, but it's not. Yay. Because there's a part of us that always feels like I could do more. Should I do more? And the answer is probably no. And then the ramp rate is a good conversation. I also used to use that when I carried a lot of one-on-one clients. They would be like, I don't think I'm working hard enough. That was just always was a thing. And I love it, but I'm not going to ask you to work any harder than you need to, because we're not going to waste energy. And that is the first place I would go, is the ramp rate. Well, your ramp rate is a 7. You should be tired, Nakia. You're not tired. Why aren't you tired, Nakia? It makes me think, let's see, what is Nakia's number? I'm just going to pick on her because I know she doesn't watch these live streams. And I don't know what that was. Was it someone talking to me? Nope. Okay. I'll pull this back up here in a second. Here we go. Okay, ready? Since Nakia doesn't watch these, I'm gonna pick on her and go into her training peaks. Watch tonight be the one dang time she decides to watch. Okay, so here's Coach Nakia, who doesn't think she does enough most of the time, and I have to be like, what are you talking about? So this is her workout mountain. Look at that. It is huge. Her fitness number, by the way, the amount of stress her body is carrying is an 82. 82. Let that sink in. So see, from one person to the other, that like it's not an apples to apples comparison, right? Her fitness is huge. Her fatigue is huger. It's 112, and her form is a 41. You'll notice that's very different from Karen's numbers and very different from my numbers, because Coach Nakia does a lot more than me and Karen combined in a good week. So that is, I'm scared to go in here and look at her ramp rate. I think I took it out for that reason, because I can't control what Coach Nakia does. I just ask her not to overdo it, and she laughs at me. We'll call it over here. Good, no. Fitness history. Where is the ramp rate? All right, I'm not going to waste too much time. It's not jumping out at me. That just, again, these are Coach Nakia's numbers. Coach Nakia, who does more than any human should do, more than I would ever ask her to do, who's always like, should I do more? And I'm like, are you kidding me? OMG. That is weird. Where's fitness ramp rate? It's like she called Training Peaks and said, take this out so my coach can't yell at me anymore. Well played, Nakia. Well played. Okay. So that's screen out. That's all there is to that. So Robin Anderson, I know you have a race coming up too. If you're watching this and you're intrigued and you're like, should I be doing these? I'm like, if it don't fix it, if it ain't broken, if you didn't already have these questions, don't worry about it. If you want to know how you're doing, that is a different conversation. Jump into office hours and we can talk through your training peaks. Okay, so that is the discussion piece. We move past it. If you have questions, go ahead and throw them in chat right now, or hop in office hours and give me a heads up when you schedule office hours that you want to talk through your training peaks, so that I have my computer with me charged and ready to go when we speak. I'm sorry I did not have that, my computer charged and ready to go when you called in, Karen, my bad. Okay, it looks like I'm averaging 30 plus miles a week for the last 2 weeks. Badass. I started dedicated AF in October, doing my long runs on Saturday, Sunday. I just did 14 today. So moving forward, each Sunday will be the longest I've ever run. Yay! Given this, do you think I'll be ready for my marathon on December the 10th? Uh-huh. I sure do. You're going to be fine. I don't feel like I do a good job of eating well before and during a run. Any specific suggestions? Do you like gels during a race or pre-run dinners and breakfast? I don't like eating while I run. It's one of the things I've ranted and raved about it in the past. It was one of the reasons why I didn't like ultras very much, is that you have to fuel. Your body runs out of glycogen and glucose very quickly. And I did not like having to stay on top of it. Well, now that we know that I have all the digestive issues that I have, it is painful to try to do anything with food in my stomach. My body doesn't multitask. And now it's funny to have the science to go with. It just doesn't feel good, that I had for a really long time. Most of my runs, not lately, but throughout my life, have been first thing in the morning and totally fasted, only because it takes about an hour or so after I eat anything before I feel like moving, let alone working out. And I just never had that much time in the morning. It was get out of bed, go do the workout, eat a piece of dried toast while I wait for the shower water to warm up, and then maybe eat some more on my way to work. That was my life for a really long time. So when it comes to, so I'm not saying that's what you need to do. I'm just saying I did what I did because that was kind of what fit into my lifestyle. It wasn't about like the precise timing of macronutrients. And it's also why I have a really hard time recommending to people what to eat. I can tell you that when I was running ultras, one of the only things that I could really handle eating was baked potatoes. I would warm them up, stuff them with butter, wrap them, and could douse them with salt, wrap them in tin foil, and put them in my pockets and in my vest. And I haven't done that in years, and no, I've never done it with a marathon, though there have been some marathons where that would have felt and tasted really, really good come mile 20. I'm also a big fan of pickle juice when you can get it, or salted watermelon. Again, if it's a hot day towards the end of the race, but in general, it's not the sort of thing you're going to be able to get like on the fly on marathon day. And I get that. As far as the week before, especially this time of year, especially in Colorado, because it's colder and it's colder first thing in the mornings, I like to add a little bit more of a carbohydrate, and not a huge amount, just like palmful. A serving size is a palmful. And I know that sounds ridiculously small, but that's like if you've ever gone to Sam's Club, those microwavable packets of brown rice, little microwave bowls, half of one of those, add it to your dinner, and it'll make a huge difference in how you feel, not that next morning, but the following morning. The thing about carbohydrates is the complex ones is that it takes a day or two for it to really present in your body in a different. So it's not like, what do I eat right before I run? It's like, what do I eat 2 days before, 3 days before? If you think of it as an ongoing 2 or 3 day cycle and a process, it becomes a whole lot easier rather than stressing out about it. Just say, look, my long run is on Sunday. So on Wednesday night, I'm going to have a little extra carbohydrate at dinner. Thursday night, I'm going to have a little extra carbohydrate at dinner. I don't need it on Friday because I will have not metabolized it before my run on Saturday morning. Right? You want to have had time to process it before that run starts. Otherwise, you're just carrying stuff in your belly you can't use. Mustard packets, that's smart. Less chance your running clothes are going to smell like a pickle. Let me tell you, my running clothes smell so bad. Pickles don't even make it worse. But do you remember that episode of Gilmore Girls where the pickle truck turned over in Stars Hollow and they spend like the whole episode like holding their breath? That is what I think of. And you just brought that lovely, lovely vision to my brain. Thank you. Sweet. But yeah, I've never tried that. I love mustard. I'm a savory person. I like pickles and mustard and onions and mayonnaise on my hamburgers. I don't eat ketchup. That's too sweet, but that's a combination. I love it. But I've never tried it during a marathon. So I guess the thing that I would say is careful with anything that's too much sugar. They're going to give out a lot of things on race day just because they're there. Doesn't mean like a nutritionist decided specifically that you would need it. They're there because the sponsors tried to place it. If it feels good, try it, but also know that anything with a lot of glucose and a lot of sugar late in a race, if you haven't been training with it, if you haven't been practicing with it, it could have an impact on your bowels. It can really, it can make you poop your pants. That is something that I've never forgotten the first time that Power Bar sponsored a long run that I did in New York back in like 2007. It was hilarious. Everybody, like nobody knew what hit them. We were like halfway out. It was really hot. We had these gels, and then like everyone in New York Road Runners was like bent over in the woods. Such a disaster. And that also might have influenced my feeling about taking gels. Now, this does not happen to every person. I know there wasn't caffeine in it, but it is a thing. Either your body is ready for all that sugar or it isn't. Let's not find out on race day so that you spend the back half in the toilet, but it's a possibility. Nothing too new. And just because it's there doesn't mean you need to try it. Pre-run breakfast. Again, on race day, it's different because you might have a lag between the time you get up and the time your run starts. And for me, I like, again, the longer lasting, more complex, but easy to digest carbohydrates. So instead of brown rice, I'll have that, the Korean twice cooked sticky rice from Costco with a little bit of Japanese seasoning and nori on top of it. And that's just delicious to me. But that's what I would honestly have for breakfast. If I was running right now, that option didn't exist 10 years ago. I didn't have Costco where I was. sad life I had. But yeah, that's something that is going to, it's not so starchy that it'll make you need to go to the bathroom, or that it'll absorb a lot of water in your intestine and make you feel sluggish, like a lot of carbohydrates do. It's something lighter that will make you feel full, but not make you feel like bloated or retaining water. So, and it's also that if you were to eat a gel later, there'd be nothing in your gut to trigger that reaction, right? Because if you had brown rice in there, for example, from breakfast, that sugar intake could hit your gut, change your hydration, the hydration state of your body, have a whole lot of water rushing into your gut, and then boom, you're going to need to poop. That is less likely to happen with something like white rice in your belly. So during your taper, generally we go to twice cooked rice, sticky rice, and away from things like brown rice, which is usually what we prefer during the training cycle. But that's carb loading right there. It's only like this much of it, half packet, a little bit extra. Nothing crazy. Do you run with headphones? I sure do. I do now. Never did before. Everything's easier when you're fit. When you're not as fit as you want to be, like me right now, shoot yeah, headphones all the way. My earpods actually died at the end of my 14-mile run. I have not done a long run yet since running with earphones, so I don't know. I'm worried my phone and earbuds won't last for a marathon. What do people do? Extra batteries for the phone, headphones with cord. That is a great question. I have no idea. I can tell you when I did a lot of protesting 2 summers ago, I'd be out for hours and it would eat through my phone. And you can get these little charge packs for like $10 on Amazon that will charge your phone up like 3 times all the way. They don't cost very much. Let me see if I can find it. Charge bank for iPhone comes up right there. This is it. So Anker Power Core 5000 portable charger. Get up. So something like this, it's little. Yeah, here's the link. I don't know if that pops up in the Facebook groups, but it should. But there's the link. If you just Google what I just did, hopefully you come up with the same thing. But I'll show you again. I'll share my screen to show you what it looks like. It's not big at all. There it is. It's about the size. I mean, it fits nicely in the palm of your hand. There you can get a good look at the size. But with the USB cord, you could charge. So that's a good solution to keep your phone going if you have wired headphones into it and it drains. I don't know about wireless headphones, because I tell you what, none of my wireless headphones would probably make it that far. I have Powerbeats Pro, and they have to charge in their case. But they can go for about 4.5 hours, and I have not done a long run, let alone a marathon with them. So I don't know. Anyone else have any suggestions? Let me know. I don't really know what other people do. Nikia, she doesn't watch these. I'm gonna have to go get her. Nikia, tell us what you do. But headphones with the cord, if you have that as an option with the backup charger to keep you going, that might be the way to go if you really want to have headphones through the whole thing. Even though Nikia is going to tell you you're not supposed to have headphones in a race because it's dangerous, because she's a race director. I'm not. I can say that. Okay. Suggestions for tightness in the front of the shins where it attaches to my foot. Yeah, buddy, dig in there. What we're going to do is sync. Sorry, I'd be really embarrassed because I've just filmed the videos for November. So right in here, you're going to first pull your toes up, straight up, not to the side, but straight up as you can. You can see all of the tendons kind of popping out. Around near each tendon is also a nerve ending. So we don't want to do any nerve damage, but we do want to take something like a knuckle or the edge of a rolling pin, or even just put a little bit of oil in there, and you can do it with your fingers. Hear that pop? That was nice. And just rub in there very gently. And by gently, I mean actually pretty firmly. as firmly as you can stand. You want to try to, and again, there are, don't work so deeply that you're bothering the nerve channels. What we want to do is make sure that any sort of junk that would have developed in the tissues around there, that the tissues are moving and gliding very smoothly on top of each other. So we want to mobilize this area, mobilize the whole shin, but definitely down in here, the sole of your foot, especially right here where all the major tendons in your foot join right above your heel. And that is the short version of what we want to do. If you go to the YouTube channel, I know I've filmed in at least one Instagram reel. I've shown you shin. I've demonstrated shin mobilizations, both with the foam roller and with the Graston. A little Graston scraper, also like $13 on Amazon. Start there. Let me know if those work. If not, then we'll purchase a therapist thumb and set up a FaceTime, and I'll show you how I use mine. It's basically exactly what it sounds like. It's a thumb that you hold, looks just like this, and you can dig in those areas a little more deeply than you can just with your fingers or with your own thumb. Last but not least, have you read Tim Ferriss's The 4-Hour Body? Any thoughts on that? No, I have not. I have thoughts about many things. Did you read it? Did you like it? Let me know what you think. There is a tendency now, especially among a lot of, I pissed so many people off in the past 2 years, guys, with a lot of my beliefs. I'm scared to answer this question now. There is a whole industry built around optimizing the body and biohacking, and I hate it. I hate it. Why are you telling people that they're deficient humans who deserve type 2 diabetes and to be fat because they put butter on their popcorn, yet you turn around and put it in your coffee and say it's superior? What? That is how I feel about a lot of the things going around right now. And Tim Ferriss, unfortunately, says a lot of things that fall into that trash can dude bra category that absolutely sells. There are people doing these things, like the entire C-suite of Twitter prior to the takeover last night. I don't think they all work at, most of those people work at Twitter anymore. But that's what the founders were known for, So I tend to avoid those things. It's not good science. What we know about the body is this, especially training through menopause is hard. Training after menopause is hard. Restoring balance to your body through hormones is really complicated. So it's easy for dudes like Tim Ferriss and those guys to come out and say, like, I have found the answer. And their answers are going to be different and a little simpler because they have more science to back it up, because they don't have hormones that need to be studied, or that doctors say, well, we can't standardize for it because it's just so different. Therefore, we don't know. Sorry. So I have not read The 4-Hour Body. Everything I just said might have nothing to do with The 4-Hour Body, but that is why I have not read The 4-Hour Body. I'm afraid it would make me too angry, and I need to save my anger for things that matter. If you've read it and you liked it and you want to have a talk about it, let me know. Sign up for office hours, throw your thoughts in, tell me to go to hell. Whatever you want to say is fair game and probably fair. I just chafe it as someone who's been trying so hard to hold things together for the past 2 years. The last thing I need is a wealthy white man telling me what I'm doing wrong that would make me feel better, because there is nothing that's going to make me feel better in 4 hours. 4 hours is not enough sleep. The bath water's cold. What else in 4 hours? I don't know. 4-hour dinner is going to be way too long. We've got a couple of those coming up soon. But yeah, I don't know what the 4-hour body is. I should probably go look that up. Either way, I'm sorry. I hope I didn't offend you with your answer. If you like it and it resonates with you and it speaks with you, great. But, if not, remember, I've been in bed like this all week long. So you can laugh at me, right? But the worst, I've been so sick of virus. It was like not even a sinus infection. It was all the way up in my head. Ugh. So don't mind me if my answers seem a little punchy. Even for me, that's why I've been in bed for a week, not moving the way I want to. Just got November out. Yay, November is out. It will be up and in your inboxes very soon. I hope you have an amazing holiday. I hope you have really cool costumes and decide to go trick-or-treating or go for a run in those costumes. If you do, please post photos. I would love to see it. And for the people who asked me about, I'm not going to be mad at anyone. A couple of you did ask, and I thought it was really sweet. I'm not going to be mad at you for your Halloween costume if you dress up as Jack Sparrow, because Jack Sparrow isn't real. He's a character. I will get mad if you dress up as a crying Amber Heard, because she is real, and that's mean. My kid, like, y'all know how I feel about all kinds of things, and my oldest wanted to be Harry Potter. And I had to have a minute and go, like, we've already had the awkward conversation. It's not like she wants to be J.K. Rowling. She wants to be this beloved character. Yes, you can be this beloved character. But also, if this friend says something that might hurt their feelings, they might be conflicted, be ready to have a conversation about it. And that was that. Didn't tell her no. All I'm saying is there's a difference between that, because my daughter doesn't want to hurt anybody, and someone who dresses up as Amber Heard or dresses up as Johnny Depp and shows up at my doorstep. That person wants a fucking fight, and they'll get it. And I'd rather not. I'm saving all my anger for that, because you know somebody's going to after the past 2 years I've had. So I hope your Halloween is lovely and drama-free, and I hope your costume is adorable and everybody loves it. And not all pirates, for sure, and not all people. And if you get a chance, go check out Anne Rich. Our very own Anne Rich has been a pirate. She's good at it, and she looks amazing, and I love it. I wish you could come to my doorstep, Anne Rich. I would love to see that costume every day of the week, twice on Sundays. Either way, thanks again for all the questions. This has been the longest broadcast we've done in a long time. You're coached. You are loved. We're all winning at life. And don't tell Coach Nakia you saw her training peaks.